it, the philosophy of Stonism. Your video, MGTOW is spreading everywhere, echoed a lot of ideas in this book, so I thought it'd be worth covering. Cheers. Well, Kajal, thanks for the donation as well as the topic. Your 39-page book starts off with the premise that a man is stronger as a member of a clan or a wall of stones, instead of as a single stone on his own. This idea echoed back when there were dozens, if not hundreds, of MGTOW channels in 2017 and 18. We were a decentralized clan, but it sounds like you're advocating for something that's more centralized. But how does someone get one stone or person to convince other stones or persons to join together and become a wall? You say that clans should be small groups of brothers working together towards a collective goal, more often than not blood related. That they also have a citadel, and if any one of the members of the clan doesn't meet their obligations, then they're cast out. I prefer online communities working together with the same goal in mind, but each one of us is individually minded. Here we are decentralized. In this day and age of narcissism and philosophy where men get together in one geographic place is centralized and governments won't have it. But a decentralized network would be far more powerful. You go on to say that a relationship a man has with his clan is like a commitment he might have with a wife. You mention this by saying that the clan is his waifu. The citadel is a stone father, and the clan is the mother or waifu. Then you bring up the idea of prion, which in biology is a protein that can cause disease in animals and humans. But you say that they're meaningless human creatures that live with no clan, no honor, only living for consumption and hedonism. But hey, it's your philosophy, so you can call men with no clan whatever you'd like. Sometimes these prions are useful as free agents, so the clan shouldn't actually write them off completely. You also say that hate is a useful emotion so long as it doesn't overwhelm one's reason and rationality. I agree. Sometimes hate is what motivates us to become even more rational. I, for example, harnessed the red pill rage in the first 1 or 2 years of this channel. But an animal might just go on a rampage destroying everything, like the supreme gentleman Elliot Rogers when they get angry. You then say that women can be allowed into a clan as well if they're young and fertile. So she enriches the clan. You say that she's supposed to permanently bond herself to that clan as well. Women can't bond with a man longer than a few weeks in many cases in this day and age, let alone for a lifetime. I'll discuss more about your short book of Stonism philosophy in just a moment. But let me first tell everyone about today's sponsor, Cash Discount Pro. Why let some woman use her points to fly her dog to Fiji first class? If you're a business owner, stop paying for your customers' reward points, bonus air miles, and cash back. Robert Rivera is a fellow MGTOW that helps businesses that take credit card payments get rid of those fees you pay to the bank. If you're accepting credit cards, he can save your company $6,000 or more annually on the fees. Watch the tutorial video or visit the Cash is King CC website. These sponsor links are in the description. Anyways, now back to society, returning to a Scottish clan structure Clown World show. Kajal, you don't actually start your book by saying if you're writing it as serious or not, and if it's just a hypothetical philosophy for living. I've been assuming that what you're saying is literal and will till the end of your writing, if it holds true. With regards to clans, a blood clan is a structure we used to use until a century or two ago, depending on where you lived as part of your social organization. Eventually it gave way to nuclear families, and now with social media we're atomizing further. Also, who wants to be part of a clan when its elders are the ones that'll have all the hierarchical power to make or break your life? Kajal, you say that small wars are useful. So does that mean you volunteer to be in the front line of your clan's small war? Don't you see the dilemma here? Human beings such as myself desire to be in charge of our own destinies. I would prefer this dysfunctional individualism to the clan lifestyle that you describe. In fact, I'd probably get marched into that small war as cannon fodder if I was born 3 or 4 centuries ago. The clan is a hierarchical collective, and I don't like that for that particular reason. You also mentioned that the prions are completely out of balance. Hence, they are lesser beings to be suspected of being problematic. You even bring up the idea that a clan is all about collective individualism. But is that the case when the clan elders can order the younger members to their death in what they deem to be useful small wars? You even say this, and I quote, "Collective individualism sounds like a paradox, but it's not, for a collective is made of individuals simultaneously working for individual and collective interests. That this is different from collectivism, which negates the individual and only concerns itself with the collective," unquote. What you're describing is the nation state. If you had a clan of 500 members and I was a nation state of millions of members, I would crush your clan. Nation states are just large collectives, and they exist because women seek out safety in them and weak men wish to belong to them instead of taking charge. My personal philosophy is that strong men should do as they please based on the morality of helping their fellow man. And if they succeed at creating a trail forward that inspires others, then people will basically follow them or start their own similar trails. Your idea of
Okay.
clan and citadel was what we had in ancient Greece, with multiple city-states warring with one another. The Mycenaeans, the Athenians, the Spartans, the Macedonians, etc. It was basically a bunch of medieval states, and they say that a clan father needs to be ruling over it.
Irresponsibly has a successful Joe Rogan irresponsibly has a successful podcast. Therefore, 270 doctors are condemning him having conversations on that podcast. So they're not really doctors, some of them are vets, and others just people. Hello there, you 4.7 million awakening wonders. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe and join us in the comments below. And I know you ain't even seen the video yet. You think, don't you tell me to subscribe before you've said anything, but I know you're going to enjoy this because we're, of course, talking about Joe Rogan, having people on to talk about the controversial subject, coronavirus, the pandemic and the regulations around it, which do seem to be changing at the moment, and we'll be doing videos on that, so watch out for that. Also, and in response to that, I think the mainstream media coordinated a response to condemn Joe Rogan and his guest for being irresponsible. But could there be other motivations? Primarily, they don't like that Joe Rogan is so successful. So I was thinking, why don't you sort of see Joe Rogan's success and think, well, I suppose we could do that. We could discuss things at length, allow alternative opinions to be openly discussed. Or we could really try and destroy Joe Rogan. Part of Joe Rogan's success may be predicated on the fact that people trust him. And part of that trust might come from the fact that he admits when he is wrong, openly. Look at this tweet from Joe Rogan. If anyone was going to make me look dumb on the podcast, I'm glad it's at Josh Zepps, because I love him and he's awesome. What's appealing about that is that it means that you can go to Joe Rogan and think, well, if this guy's wrong about something, he's going to be open and admit it. And I've been on that show a couple of times, and Joe Rogan, as you know, because I mention it about once a week, is a fan of our channel. And what I will say is that when I went on there, he was so encouraging about podcasts. Like, you should do a podcast, you should do stuff, you should do stuff. Compare that with the mainstream media going, this guy's being successful. He's challenging some of our corporate relationships with big companies. Right, get some people who are doctors. We can't get doctors. Vets? The media last week widely circulated an open letter to Spotify, allegedly co-signed by 270 doctors, that demanded the company take action against podcast host Joe Rogan. On open letters as well, a little bit pompous. Dear everybody, we think this and this. Just write a normal letter and send it in a post or an email. Where do you think this is? 1812. Mr. Darcy, you've offended me there. That lace shirt is provocative. But it turns out that the majority of those signatories cannot legally practice medicine on their own. Like, if you're criticising someone for their credibility, at least your own open letter should be co-signed by actual doctors. The whole topic and thrust of the epistle was legitimacy and credibility. Can't get any doctors? No, don't matter, get anyone to sign it. Aren't we criticising Joe Rogan because we think that he's not credible? Yeah, don't matter. It shows you what the actual objective is. The actual objective is, we want to be in charge again. Like CNN, these companies used to be regarded with some respect. CNN, this is the news. Negative. The letter claimed Joe Rogan has a concerning history of broadcasting misinformation with huge views about the COVID-19 pandemic. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Joe Rogan has repeatedly spread misleading and false claims on his podcast, provoking distrust in science and medicine. I don't know that it provokes distrust in science and medicine. I think it provokes distrust in corporatism, whether those corporations are pharmacological or media-oriented. And I would say scepticism and personal agency rather than, mistrust. You could say, like, what do you want? For people to be blindly obedient? And the answer to that, if you're the mainstream media and the government and big business, is yes. You want people to be blindly obedient. And blind obedience requires a lack of conversation and discourse and consideration and contemplation and open communication and transparency. All things that podcast is good at providing. I don't think that Joe Rogan is a perfect person, given that he is an actual person. But What he is more reliable than the people that have the audacity to criticise him with illegitimate signatories. Imagine if the mainstream media took a leaf out of Joe Rogan's book and had guests on their shows that had a contrary opinion. We're getting on Robert Malone and Peter McCulloch and some of these people that Joe Rogan had. I don't agree with you, I don't agree with that data. Or wait a second, it says here that you can get it twice. Hold on, we've got information that suggests that it is more effective in some. They could have that conversation. The censorship and the omission of that kind of conversation doesn't make me think, oh, thank God, they've saved me the time of hearing any alternative. It makes me think, uh-oh, you know, you've seen that reel of how many shows Pfizer sponsors.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
In a world where there are many variables, where it's difficult to find the truth, the variable that wins out is commercial interest and financial interest. The letter stated, this is not only a scientific or medical concern, it's a sociological issue of devastating proportions, and Spotify is responsible for allowing this activity to thrive on its platform. It's so amazing when they do stuff like that. We had some criticism, I can't remember the name of the website, but it's one of them ones that you'd expect would do that, and they went, we noticed that YouTube has still not demonetized the video. Like those little snitches, those little wet mimsies, those little nincompoops. Like they're trying to like sort of snitch him out to Spotify. Spotify, you're on our team, aren't you? Like the underlying real emotion is, oh my God, this guy's doing better than us. This guy's doing better than us. This isn't fair. Stop it. We used to be in charge. Hey, like just admit it. Just admit it and learn from it. Because they can't have long conversations because the commercials won't allow it. Because they can't be open about certain aspects of this complex issue because the relationships with certain corporations and the government won't allow it. What you get is this sort of streamlined, disingenuous spear. Take the example of the Wuhan lab leak theory, which increasingly seems like the more likely origin for the coronavirus pandemic. At the beginning, because of their alliances with the government and Big Pharma, presumably, and now emails have been leaked that strongly support this idea, they went, no way, couldn't have come from a lab, More evidence it came from a lab, more evidence, okay, could be, maybe it is. You know, if from the beginning they said, we don't know, maybe it comes from these wet markets, or possibly it comes from this laboratory where they're doing gain-of-function research. Then you get, oh, these guys are sort of up for a bit of a chat on the subject. Let's see what they've got to say next week. But because over time, they have taught us what to think of them. By their fruit shall we know them. We know what the fruits are. The fruits are rotten. The media circulated the letter like wildfire. In The Guardian, menace to public health. 270 doctors criticise Spotify over Joe Rogan's podcast. Check this, all the headlines implicate Spotify in it. That's like corporate cancel pressure. Forbes, doctors, scientists petition Spotify to stop Joe Rogan experience COVID-19 misinformation. They're trying to create that pressure. Unfortunately for them, there's another little thing that Spotify care about called money. And because you've created a system that's built around finance and profit and money, you're going to have a little bit of an obstacle to surmount. Look at this, it goes on. Rolling Stone, a menace to public health. Doctors demand Spotify puts an end to COVID lies on Joe Rogan experience. New York Post, Joe Rogan is a menace to public health. 270 doctors and experts tell Spotify. I mean, doesn't it concern you that every single one of those organisations uses the exact same format of headline? Joe Rogan, menace, Spotify. None of them don't mention Spotify. Now, like, I'm not suggesting in a conspiratorial way that there is one person in, like, you know, smoking a cigar or whatever. I don't even know what the cliches are. Is it a lizard? I don't know. Like, I'm not suggesting that. But they have all got the same agenda. They've all sort of fell their way into the same set of words. If it's not one person directing them, then they've saved themselves a salary because they're doing it automatically. A quick inspection of the letter's signatories reveals that the majority are not legally permitted to practice medicine. I can't legally call myself a doctor, but I will look at that toe. Is that a toe? What are the ones on your hand again? The majority are not legally permitted to practice medicine unsupervised. I like the idea. Well, you can practice medicine, but come in here. Oh, God, I'm busy. I'm doing my own operation. Okay, so the knee bone's connected to the ankle bone. No! The tibula's in the middle of that, you idiot! Oh, God! Beep! That's my patient! Well, a significant number are not even direct medical providers. Help! Help! I need a doctor! Wait, I'll call you one. The range of credentials among the signatories include 82 medical doctors, well done, 5 doctors of osteopathic medicine, a little bit of a drop-off, a dozen nurse practitioners, nearly 100 PhDs, Finish your schoolwork, finish your homework before you start signing letters. PhD candidates? That includes me. I could do that. Registered nurses. Veterinarians, they shouldn't have allowed them on there, should they? I mean, particularly when they had the gall to criticise ivermectin for being horse-paced again and again and again. A dentist. I've been doing fillings all morning, and I'm sick and tired of just how well Joe Rogan's podcast is doing. A psychologist, physician's assistants. I've been assisting this physician all morning. Oh, sorry. There you go. There's the forceps. A biochemist, master's students, research associates, a pharmacist. People just down a chemist now. A COVID-19 lab supervisor, medical students, public health advisors, teachers, engineers, social workers, and even a podcast host. They didn't ask me to help. In other words, the list is composed of an eclectic group of people, some of whom are qualified medical experts. What generally qualifies a person to contribute any substantive perspective to a given field of research is by earning the highest degree necessary in that field and by having direct experience in the field. For medicine in the United States, this is most often the MD or DO, considering one of these degrees is required to obtain a license to practice medicine without supervision. Rather than seeking to silence voices that contradict the narrative, all views should be weighed equally and then only discounted if they are examined fairly with a methodology appropriate to the field. This is why, for example, academic journals typically employ a blind peer review process. After all, scholars and experts who are members of professional societies routinely gather in meetings to share new ideas. Some are accepted, others are rejected, but all are allotted the opportunity to be heard if they are written within the bounds of the field. That's if the intention and objective is to advance medicine, advance the wellness of humankind, advance the principles embodied in the Hippocratic Oath and other sub-theological ideas that underwrite medicine. But what we've got here is an anti-free speech movement, a corporate oppression of a vital voice in the public conversation. So once you recognise something for what it is, once you see how these organisations actually operate, all of those questions and doubts magically disappear. What that goes on to be is mainstream media annoyed by success of person who will not toe the line. It's essentially, the whole of that letter is, no, what an absolute absurd story. What a clear demonstration of the principles that underwrite the, well, as up until recently, the dominant voices in our media, because thankfully Joe Rogan's success seems like something that is insurmountable and here to stay as long as he continues to operate according to the principles which seem to organically come to him: transparency, discourse, openness, admission of fallibility, all things that the media and human beings, like wherever we're operating, should just have as ordinary principles by which we live, and we can be a part of that conversation. All of us can participate, we can be honest, and we don't need doctors and dentists and nurses and candlestick makers to co-sign our rhetoric. Though, if you are a doctor or a nurse or an MD, please hit me up in the comments below. Join this conversation. Make sure you've got some co-signers that come from bloody good backgrounds, though. And subscribe to the channel. Pass it around among your friends. Get other people to sign up to this channel if indeed you enjoy it. If you had fun watching this video, please watch this one. Or maybe have a little look at this guy. There are playlists of wonder which will advance your understanding on these topics. Well, certainly they've advanced mine, reading this stuff and learning from you and your comments. That's why it's so important that you stay in connection. If you want to join my mailing list, please click below and I'll tell you what live stuff I'm doing and some really exciting things that are coming up soon. Stay free.
Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. We think that stablecoins and CBDCs will coexist in the future. We've got that story plus Afghani Kush investments, but first, Davos Agenda 2022 brings together world leaders to address the state of the world, and we'll just take it from the evil horses' mouths. The Davos Agenda, virtual event, it's a virtual event now, offers the first global platform of 2022 for world leaders to come together to share their visions for the year ahead. We already did that weeks ago here in New World Next Week. The week-long virtual event taking place are already underway at the World Economic Forum website and, of course, social media channels. January 17th through the 21st. So they're already about halfway through as we are taping this. And it will feature heads of state and government, CEOs, and other leaders. They will discuss critical challenges facing the world today and present their ideas on how to address them. James, I think I've already seen some of the thumbnails for the videos that just show, of course, Klaus Schwab sitting by himself like the worst boss you're ever trying to interview for, and he's just by himself in this stark room. We can put those pictures up again. It's perfectly sort of on brand with Klaus Schwab. The event will also mark the launch of several forum initiatives, including efforts to accelerate the race to net zero emissions, ensure the economic opportunity of nature-positive solutions. I haven't heard that. That's good. Nature-positive. Create cyber resilience, strengthen global value chains, build economies in fragile markets through humanitarian investing, bridge the vaccine manufacturing gap, and use data solutions to prepare for the next pandemic. Everyone hopes that in 2022, the COVID-19 pandemic and the crises that accompanied it will finally begin to recede, said Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. But major global challenges await us, from climate change to rebuilding trust and social cohesion. To address them, leaders will need to adopt new models, look long-term, renew cooperation, and act systemically. The Davos Agenda 2020, isn't there a difference? The agenda is the starting point for the dialogue needed for global cooperation in 2022. Another post from the World Economic Forum breaking down their version of their agenda. This is what a new model of governance could look like. And James, what would governance 4.0 look like?
Well, don't take my word for it, James. Go and get it straight from the German horse's mouth. Schwab himself writing up this little piece for the Davos Agenda 2022, where he talks about governance 4.0, because he goes through the various iterations of 1.0 immediately after World War II. Public and corporate governance were marked by the rule of the one man, the elected or unelected strong leader and boss. Governance 2.0 emerged in the 1960s with the rise of the economist Milton Friedman's shareholder capitalism and progressive global financialization, which fell apart with the 2008 global financial crisis, but limped along until COVID-19 ushered in governance 3.0, which is crisis management, dominating decision-making. Well, that sounds actually like what we've been living under for quite a long time. But anyway, and now, don't worry, Schwab and his crew are here to deliver the answer to that crisis management of governance 3.0, governance 4.0, which he lays out here. It will replace today's short-term crisis management with long-term strategic thinking, must replace the tunnel vision and top-down approach that prevailed in the past, means the roles and responsibilities of each stakeholder in society must change. Business can no longer ignore its social and environmental impact, while government can no longer act as if it alone has all the answers. The primacy of society and nature must be at the core of any new governance system, whether for business or government. Oh, he's saying all the wonderful catchwords, buzzwords, and phrases that we've come to be the trained seals clapping and arfing for those fish. Oh, sustainability, equity, yay, this guy's on our side. And so what does that mean? He goes on to say, many leaders are already thinking and acting like pioneers for a new age of governance. They include business executives advocating for environmental, social, and governance metrics, ESG metrics, which, oh, by the way, the World Economic Forum is spearheading the creation of, which is basically the way they're going to take this $100 trillion plus of committed investments that the crew were putting together at the COP26 conference that we were talking about a couple of months ago, and saying, you guys will not get access to global finance, essentially, unless you play by our rules and our game. And here's the rule book. It's called ESG metrics. And if you tick all the boxes, then you can be part of this new finance system that we're creating. And then he goes on to cite, absurdly enough, French President Emmanuel Macron and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi for breaking down boundaries, or is that erecting boundaries around the people who have not been injected by experimental medical technology and are basically being cast out of society? Yeah, maybe that's really what governance 4.0 is about. So anyway, I suggest people read through that, take a look at this, but take it for what it's worth and take it for who it's coming from. More on which from Vanity Fair, which just ran an interesting piece. He has an incredible knack to smell the next fad. How Klaus Schwab built a billionaire circus at Davos, which goes on to talk about what you're alluding to there, the idea of Schwab as the stern boss figure. They have some humorous anecdotes which humanize him a little bit, such as when he was away on a business trip and one of the World Economic Forum employees decided they were late for a meeting, so they just nipped into his parking spot for an hour while he was away on an international business trip. Word got back to him, and he was going to have this employee fired, and he had to be talked out of that by other WEF members. And there's another anecdote about him visiting South Africa at one point and giving a speech in front of Mandela, and it was apparently Klaus Schwab's "I have a dream" speech, which apparently caused everyone in the crowd to cringe. I have a dream about a crisis. Can you believe it? But it also gets into some interesting details about the financial shenanigans that underpin the World Economic Forum and how Schwab became so financially wealthy, let alone politically powerful. All of that to the side, the Davos agenda is ongoing as we record this, will still be ongoing by the time this episode gets posted. So I haven't watched everything yet, but you can watch, for example, President Xi Jinping and his message to the Davos agenda and blah, 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 cooperation, win-win, all the kind of nonsense, garbage, mealy-mouth platitudes that mean nothing that you would expect from another Xi Jinping speech. You can watch Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett talking to Davos Forum. Do not invest in octopus of terror Iran. Surprise, surprise. That's what he wants to, that's his message for the world. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida is talking about pushing for a green digital transformation, and I'll throw in an article describing what he was talking about if you don't want to watch the actual speech itself, and I don't blame you for that. But the funny thing is, actually being and living in Japan, I know that this is total hot air. And I know everyone thinks Japan is such a digitally forward, a cutting-edge technology nation. You have no idea what business here is actually like, where every document, even if it's an electronic document, has to be printed out and then filled out by hand and stamped with an old-fashioned stamp and then faxed to your business partner in another country in triplicate and all of this. It's a positively medieval system over here, and that's not going to change whatever rhetoric they throw at it. Anyway, there's all that happening right now. And as always, I think the most important part about this is where are they taking the narrative? Because, of course, this is about shaping perception and narratives around what is happening right now in the world. And this is increasingly a forum in which we see what the narrative for the coming year might be. So at the very least, we can read the globalist tea leaves and read between the lines about what they're talking about. And just read the titles of some of the days, because each day has a theme. And you can start to see some of the themes that are developing and some of the people they're turning to, Fauci and others, to give us, and the CEO of Moderna and other people talking about where next for the pandemic, what will happen next. Oh, tell us, wise wizards of science. This is what the Davos agenda is about. So I haven't watched everything yet. I hope people out there will watch at least one thing and then report back to headquarters, if there's any nuggets out there of information. Hopefully we don't all have to subject ourselves to all of this propaganda.
You mentioned the 100 trillions. You won't get any of this unless you kind of play along. A lot of that now, it strikes me as sounding like disaster capitalism or the shock doctrine. The sort of things that now World Economic Forum cronies like Naomi Klein used to write best-selling books about. What a rich tapestry. You mean they have daily themes? You mean stuff like cyberspace war and food world order? Stuff like that? We continue our ongoing coverage of the Bitcoin PSYOP as we continue this episode 472 of New World next week. Our second story, Visa launches platform to test out central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. In September 2020, American payments giant MasterCard released a platform that allowed central banks to test how proposed central bank digital currency, CBDCs, would work in real life. Now, The other big credit card company here from the States, US-based payments titan Visa, joins the bandwagon and will soon be providing a virtual testing environment that can simulate issuance, distribution, and exchange of CBDCs. If it proves something, it's that interest in central bank digital currencies have definitely accelerated. In fact, in the past few years, a growing number of central banks have been exploring new financial technologies and how they might enhance the stability, resiliency, and efficiency of financial systems. So in the face of an increasing number of governments considering central bank digital currencies, with some like Nigeria already at the implementation stage, it's not surprising that Visa and MasterCard are positioning themselves for the future of digital payments. They did it a decade ago. They're just announcing it to you now. Bloomberg reported that the card... Isn't it funny how Bloomberg is just always they're on point with knowing exactly what's going on with the world financial institutions. And they're just a scrappy news agency. Bloomberg reported that the card payment provider is collaborating with Consensus Incorporated, a blockchain software company, to begin piloting the program this spring. It was decided after Visa's discussions with approximately 30 central banks regarding goals related to government-backed digital currencies. Consensus, which is being led by Ethereum co-founder Joseph Lubin, has worked with several central banks to test CBDCs, including the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Reserve Bank of Australia, and the Bank of Thailand. To Visa, in the words of its head crypto Kai Sheffield, we think that stablecoins and CBDCs will coexist in the future, and there'll be a number of different approaches to creating products based on that. To top it off, Visa's also been working with more than 60 crypto platforms to issue cards linked to these digital currencies like USD Coin, the stable coin, issued by a consortium that includes Circle Internet Financial Incorporated. Stablecoin, I believe, James, are cryptocurrencies backed up by the same garbage fiat that we're ostensibly trying to get away from. We'll include links to Joseph Lubin, entrepreneur, but for more on the real-world implementation. Another interesting article from Cointelegraph, from e-Naira to e-Hervnia, Caribbean fintech developed CBDCs around the world, and they point out Barbados, Paradise Island in the West Indies, known for its azure beaches, tidal waves, shipwrecks, homegrown Barbadian hospitality, and more recently, an influx of remote workers. What about Rihanna? Now, of course, one can add crypto innovations to that list as well. BITT, B-I-T-T, a Barbadian fintech firm developing blockchain tech, has successfully created the e-Naira central bank digital currency for the aforementioned Nigeria, and is on the path to creating an electronic Hervnia, which is the Ukrainian currency. Man, you have no idea how many cryptocurrencies there are now on just regular American boob tube. As we've talked about, when the world's biggest supervillains and their media mouthpieces are hyping your thing in between China's NBA games, it might be played out, James. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about putting it all in dog money. What do you think?
You're right. I have no idea, because obviously I don't watch American television or American commercials. But I'm wondering, just off the top of my head, I wonder which cryptos and which crypto practices and which exchanges they're promoting on television with the billionaires and the politicians and the e-celebs. Is it Pirate Chain and Monero and Epic? Are they telling you about non-KYC ways of trading and cold storage and hardware wallets and proper practices? Or are they just hyping Coinbase and Dogecoin to the moon, guys? Yay! And always leave all of your crypto on a KYC exchange and never private keys? What's that? So, of course, as you alluded to at the beginning of this segment, as relevant as the Bitcoin PSYOP was 4 years ago when I produced that podcast, it is even more relevant now. And here we go again, because here we got Visa working on this CBDC thing with Consensus, a blockchain software company. It's all the same. It's all crypto, blockchain, CBDC. And here you go, guys. Here it is. And I think a window, an insight into that comes from that Cointelegraph article that you mentioned there about the implementation of the e-Naira, the digital CBDC that's now apparently operative in Nigeria. And for a taste of this, you can start to drill down on some of the details where they actually ask, in this article, they ask the person who was in charge, the CEO of this company that designed the e-Naira, would you please describe the technology behind the e-Naira digital currency that you created? And he responds, it's really a stable coin minted by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Unlike any of the typical cryptocurrencies or even a stablecoin, this is a digital version of the fiat currency within Nigeria. So this is government money. It can be transacted by a user who has downloaded a wallet through the various app stores and at participating merchants. The ecosystem that we've worked with the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, to deploy our technology allows the central bank to have minting and all the rights around minting. Then they distribute the digital version of that coin to participating financial institutions. Afterwards, those financial institutions can transact with merchants and consumers using the e-Naira. In other words, this is the exact same fiat money system as before, but now it's digital. Yay! Absolutely no difference, but it sounds cool, doesn't it? E-Naira, CBDC, wow. Oh, I just downloaded this app from some app store, and look, it's all directly tied into the central bank. Great! Yay! Total nonsense. But this is the vision of the future. Of course, this is really what Governance 4.0 is about, is the governance of every single individual on the planet and every transaction that you have in your life. That is the model for the real Governance 4.0 system they're trying to bring about. And just more examples of that coming off the news wires. Just from the past week, China wants its digital currency to reach greater use, talking about the implementation of the ECNY, which is the Chinese CBDC, which they've been trialing since 2014, and they're now rolling out a little bit more. They're potentially going to make some sort of big rollout during the Beijing Olympics. We'll see. We have this one. Malaysia is assessing potential benefits of a CBDC option. And this one, just hot off the wire, I just saw this just before we started recording, Iran to reportedly pilot central bank digital currency soon. What was it all those people were telling me all these years that, no, Iran and China and Russia, they're the good guys and they're fighting these bankster systems. And, oh wait, they're doing the exact same thing as everyone else in the entire financial world are doing. I wonder why. It's almost like a coordinated plan to control every transaction on Earth and to precisely to steal the real and replace it with this government-issued fake, as might be relevant to other things we're going to talk about.
Well, that's one of my favorite phrases, and it's right there. You nailed it though. You nailed it with this might be what governance 4.0 looks like. And again, much like they implement it and then tell you about it a decade later, this will be the thing. And later they'll go, oh, that was when it all kind of really came together. I mean, think about it. We've hardly mentioned the COOF at all on this episode, and yet it is the blank check for all of this crap we've seen the last 2 years. So, James, you mentioned, you just got to go get an app. That would be the apps that are allowed to be featured in the controlled 2 places you're allowed to go get apps for your Coke or Pepsi controlled device. And so thanks. They steal the real and sell you the fake. Even when it's kind of fake in the first place, they still do it. It's actually, James, it's pretty amazing on just on a bizarro world level. And yes, it's a lot of the cringy Matt Damon commercials on TV about just using slogans about be brave, because it's super brave to get into crypto now, a decade after the train left the station. I will include links to the referenced Remy rap known as Dogecoin rap. I've been a Remy fan for a long, long time, long before he hooked up with Reason, but that's one of my favorite songs right now. The other thing, James, that I wanted to mention, and it's mostly on basketball. So NBA, American basketball. If there's another sport that has more game stoppage and whistleblowing time to go to another advertisement, I don't know what it is. There's so much opportunity for just a bunch of bull crap in basketball. It's pretty unwatchable. But the thing I've noticed about the NBA basketball teams here in the States, they're all sort of extra sponsored, and it'll all be on the same spot on their uniforms, because they changed the rules about, extra advertising on the uniforms. They're all sponsored by these great new money apps, Honey, Chime, and a ton more. Yeah, you might not have even heard of honey or chive. You know why? Because they're not marketed at you. They look to me like a new version of those predatory check-cashing advanced places with the neon lights targeting urban areas and folks who might not be financially savvy. Oh, but now they have names literally like Empower. Speaking of empowerment, our final story, not exactly the hundreds of trillions of dollars of investment, but not bad. Taliban weed about to attract millions in foreign investment. Sea Farm International, the letter C, farm like pharma. Sea Farm International, a German research and development firm, has said it's planning a multi-million-dollar investment in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan with the aim of producing weed for medical purposes. Following an unfortunate case of mistaken identity in late 2021, Disney's Vice Media tracked down a German company, Sea Farm International, which has struck a deal with the Taliban. Last year, a tweet from the Afghan Ministry of the Interior claimed that a firm called Sea Farm had met with Taliban officials and would invest $450 million in Afghanistan to set up a hashish processing operation. As they so often do, the media rushed to wrongly identify some small Australian medical consulting firm with the same name, who of course vehemently denied the links with the Taliban. Werner Zimmerman, 56 years old, ECI's real owner and managing director, told Disney's Vice on Friday he was not happy that the news of the deal had gone public and claimed that the scale of the agreement had been misconstrued. His company operates in Lesotho, Morocco, Kyrgyzstan, North Macedonia, and Cyprus, with Kazakhstan and Afghanistan soon to be added to the list. Zimmerman's firm builds cannabis processing plants and consults on legal issues such as the feasibility of exporting medical weed to other countries. The Afghan project is due to follow the building of basically a half a million euros plant in Kazakhstan. They plan to produce medical cannabis in Afghanistan for both local and international markets, but if countries like Germany legalize the drug, which they probably will not, they may start growing the plant for recreational use, Zimmerman said. He also discussed concerns about human rights abuses committed by the Taliban, saying, "I work professionally, not ideologically, with the Minister of the Interior in charge, and I support them with my project." He claims he's been getting threats from representatives of a European drug cartel who are unhappy with his plans, who could cut into their share of the monopolized market. Despite being outlawed since, just the 1970s, the cannabis plant is indigenous to Afghanistan and was, at least until the super shocking Taliban takeover last summer, consumed in people in remote parts of the country. Couple of the related articles. This guy wants to invest millions in Taliban weed factory, and the whole story about the mistaken identity thing is really a whole other bizarre chapter as the Taliban enters the cannabis market. James, this is the other thing that I say a lot, aside from they steal the real and stuff. The same places that lord over the prohibition of something get to flip a switch and then lord over the exploitation, and it works both ways regardless of which way it starts. Rockefellers exploit big oil until they get the newer, younger Rockefellers to make a big show of divesting from those dirty fossil fuels. And the same folks that prohibited weed now get to exploit it. And I guess that now includes the Taliban, James?
Well, we'll see about this story. I have a feeling that we're not quite done hearing about Afghanistan, I don't think. And then the Taliban took over and everything went back to business as usual. I don't know. I have a feeling there's going to be more developments on that square of the chessboard in the coming year or years. And it actually sends me back to being a very young, very green, fresh out of college, 2001, just after the invasion. And I remember reading, it might have been in the New York Times, but I remember reading about some Irishman who had set up the first pub in newly liberated Afghanistan. And this is a business that'll take off. And I remember at the time thinking, that might be a good place to invest. I bet there'll be a lot of development there now. No. Word to the wise, no, that probably isn't a good opportunity. And I similarly think business ventures in Afghanistan at this point might be a bit precarious. But let's tie a bow on this entire episode, because I saw hot off the newswires just before we went to record, I saw this latest piece from Glenn Greenwald-created, Pierre Omidyar-backed propaganda rag The Intercept. Starving Afghans use crypto to sidestep U.S. sanctions, failing banks, and the Taliban. Talking about NGOs looking to provide emergency aid to Afghanistan despite failing banks and U.S. sanctions are turning to cryptocurrency. So, yay! But wait, James is always mentioning this Bitcoin PSYOP thing, and not all cryptos are the same, and sometimes they hide some details, in the devil might be in the details. Let's just see. Let's see if they mention what crypto are they talking about, and in what way, and how are they using this? So there's this NGO called Code to Inspire, which is apparently helping young women learn how to computer program. Okay, and they go through and, but the disruptions and State Department sanctions and banking problems and all this. So Code to Inspire pay its recipients in, drumroll please, BUSD, a so-called stablecoin whose value is tied to the US dollar, and then the women convert it to Afghanis, the local currency, at money exchanges. BUSD, I wonder what that is. Oh, Binance USD. Well, that's something I've heard about before. Let's look that up. What is Binance USD? Binance USD is a stablecoin pegged to the US dollar and has been approved by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Yeah, sticking it to the man, getting around the banks by complying as hard as possible and making sure you are wedded into their controlled system. Yeah, that's the crypto solution, right? Bitcoin PSYOP, once again. So anyway, this is what we're dealing with. Taking the real, giving you the fake, and making you pay for it, and then enslaving you to it. This is the vision of the future of governance 4.0. Sorry to be a bit of a downer at the end of the episode here.
Well, and we joke sometimes that bots are already writing all the news stories because they cram in every little single popular thing. It's like I look for these on the Morning Monarchy show sometimes to find something that basically says, Senator AI plants a farm with Satan and has a new album. Something that puts together all the...
On NFT!
As an NFT, of course. How could I forget that? There currently are 0 NFTs at NewWorldNextWeek.com. How do you like that segue? NewWorldNextWeek.com is the New World Next Week store. It has all the Corbett DVDs that are currently in production. Again, there should be a new one that is literally being manufactured as we speak. Very excited to put up that 4th DVD on the site. You might notice I'm not wearing a Corbett Report shirt, as we pretty much quickly sold out of the first little limited batch, but the second bigger batch is already on the way. That has been shipped to us. It should be here at any time. And of course, the P.O. Box. If you don't do the digital money thing, we also have my post office box here in America. You can send cash, gold backs, your local currency. Any number of ways you can support our work. Again, as we say, James, we don't care how, just as long as people do support real, independent news and information. And again, we've been doing New World Next Week for I don't even know how long anymore. I think the proof is in our pudding. I also like to, of course, try and remind folks, as a little enticement, I play this exclusive New World Next Week audio after my Thursday Morning Monarchy, and that's before it is published anywhere. It's only before... me and you and Brock have been the only ones that have heard it. James, there it is. New World Next Week, episode 472.
Let's put it in the can. Let's do it again next week. James, thanks for the stories.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Take care.
I still have long COVID. My symptoms are better after the second. I had the Moderna vaccine, and it actually did help with some of my symptoms. But I still get, heart palpitations and shortness of breath and tingling in my hands and feet. And it'll just come out of nowhere. Like, I'll be good for, a week, 10 days, and then all of a sudden I'll be hit pretty hard with it, and I had COVID 2 years ago. So, yeah, it is not just a cold.
Well, friends, if you've been watching the live streams, you'll know that I've been sitting here fighting off the Obi-Wan Kenobi virus. That's right. I had the sniffles, right? I lost a sense of smell. Had a slight headache. had a sore throat, coughed a little bit. Now, granted, I didn't go get a test because I'm not going to be nasally raped by the narcissist-like Faucisms over here, but I did have every single symptom of the deadliest pandemic known to man. Omicron variant, boys, trademark, science, science. Now, I'm a little bit concerned because I mainly fought this off over the last week with beer, coffee, orange juice, water, and a lot of sleep. What I'm concerned about, my friends, I ran over here to Dr. Anthony Faucism to get a heads up. What should I be worried about, bro? Look at these fucking memes, by the way. Look at this cocksucker. What should I be worried about? And he said, you gotta be worried about the science of long Omicron COVID. What the fuck? If we strike down COVID, will it become stronger than we could even possibly imagine? You know it. You know you better go out there and you better get your boosters. Take it, not from me, not from Anthony Fauci's, but take it from Dr. Alyssa Milano's. Oh shit, fucking for cereal. This chick's look at this fucking title page right here. Like, this is great. Holy shit. Even Omicron don't want to fuck with this dipshit. But anyway, boys, here you go. Here's some medical advice from everybody's favorite washed-up teen actress who, by the way, lands... This is how you get a job in Hollywood these days. It's destroyed out Hollywood kid fucker zone. You go out there, you yell about Orange Man bad, you go, COVID. COVID is science. Science, COVID, you fucking Nazis. And of course you get a Netflix deal. And that's what this dumb bitch did over here. But you gotta milk it though, right? You gotta milk it. So, despite the fact that science should have cured her because she's fucking triple jabbed, now she told everybody, I got the long COVID. Look, my hair's falling out still, everybody. My hair's falling. That's Trump derangement syndrome, you dumb bitch. That's Trump derangement syndrome. That's Ted Cruz derangement syndrome. Oh, no, I also got the long COVID. Oh, then what can we do about this, boys? What can we do? Anyway, triple jabbed Alyssa Milano blames her COVID from 2 years ago for current symptoms. Aren't those the same symptoms, of the Fauci sauce? We'll have to see. Well, the American thriller Brazen, don't get brazen with me, bitch, starring actress Alyssa Milano, was released on Netflix on January 13th, 2022, right alongside all of the totally not kid porns, right, cuties? Joe Biden's favorite movie. The actress has spent her time not only promoting her new film, but also pushing the COVID-19 agenda, boys. That was in her contract. In her Netflix contract, it says you gotta come out, you still need to yell about Orange Man bad, you need to tell everybody America sucks, white people are garbage, and scary COVID. Get out there and do it. Although it's common knowledge that the current COVID-19 drug available from Moderna and Pfizer do little to stop the spread of a person from contracting the virus, Milano discussed complications she suffered from the COVID-19 and how the Moderna shot supposedly helped her. But even with Melissa Milano receiving all of the doses, including the boosters, she's adamant that she still suffers from COVID-19 side effects. See, you anti-science bigots? It's not just the cold. Really? Again, I fended off the world's dangerous, most deadliest Omicron ever known to man with beer and orange juice, water and sleep, a little bit of coffee. But that's no. I should go out and get a bunch of experimental jabs up my butthole. I should do that. Go fuck yourself. Anyway, in this video, it's awesome. She's sitting there. She goes, "Listen, first of all, this chick on coke, and I know from a coke addict like this, right? Listen, I'm open about the meth that I'm doing over here. I'm open about Sleazy P Martini being my distributor. I'm open about all of that. She's not. She's telling everybody how great she is. She's going like this. It's like her fucking eyelids are gonna have liftoff. And she's telling everybody, oh my god, you don't understand. I had COVID 2 years ago. I got shortness of breath. You got shortness of breath? After the jab? After the third fucking jab, you got shortness of breath? That's because of COVID from 2 years ago? When you found? I got tinglings in my hand. You got blood clots too, bitch? It's from the long COVID. Are you sure it's from the long COVID? Did you see the side effects of the vaccine sauce? There are no side effects to the vaccine sauce. It's 100% safe, 100% effective. That's why I'm on an Amazon schedule. I'm getting one in my butthole every 3 months. It's totally fine. Really? She's telling everybody she's having heart palpitations. Holy shit. Take more boosters. Take more boosters. Beefcake Dr. Abraham back here telling you, take more boosters. It's your duty, Alyssa Milano. Let us know how this works out for you. Get that 15th fucking booster. In Israel right now, they're sitting there going, oh shit, looks like that 4th booster didn't work. The 4th shot didn't work. You're kidding me. You're kidding me. You're telling me all the conspiracy terrorists were right again? Hey, well, okay, so the 4th shot doesn't really protect against Omicron. Well, then what do we do? Well, then you get more shots. You get more shots. So the 7th one will work. Fucking hell. And this chick is all hopped up on fucking Moderna and meth, allegedly. And she's telling everybody it's the long COVID from 2 years ago that gave her heart palpitations over here. Really? You got the Darth Sidious disease from 2 years ago because of Coof? No. I think it might be something a little bit more recent. But then again, I'm not a doctor, boys. I ain't giving out medical advice over here. But everything that she's talking about seems to be the side effects that a lot of people who are keeling over and they're 20 fucking years old are warning us all about. This chick says they got, but it's definitely COVID. That's fucking weird. That's weird how what might be a side effect of all of these experimental sauces is now complications of the COVID-19 Omicron variation, which is weird. But anyway, there you have it. I thought that the booster was supposed to. I thought the vaccine, they were telling everybody, listen, even if you got the coofs, even if natural immunity is a conspiracy theory, don't worry about it. Even if you got the coofs, go out there and get a bunch of experimental jabs because that will protect you from long COVID. And if you have long COVID, it will cure long COVID. She's telling you, I think I got heart palpitations. Well, that's a shame. That's a shame. I hope Alyssa Milano makes it, boys. I hope that she's able to overcome the totally not cold. She ends the video going, see, I still have blood clots. I got winter vagina. I got heart palpitations from the aluminum falcon. It's definitely not just a cold. Anti-science bigots. Okay. And none of this will be taken down. Twitter, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is blatant medical misinformation. She ain't no fucking doctor, but then again, from the side that gets their medical information from motherfucking Big Bird, Elmo, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and Dr. Billiam Gates. Add this dumb bitch to the fucking list over here, I guess. But there you have it, my friends. Never miss an opportunity to dunk on this chick. This is our channel's Brie Larson. Take that, Jeremy. We taking this dumb truck over here. You can keep Brie Larson or beat up ass zombie toes. We gonna beat up on this chick. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching the videos, board chat. If you want to be kept up to date on the troubles of Alyssa Milano, hit that subscribe button and make way, because the salt must flow.
Good day everyone. In the news now is an article that once again should send your revs into the red, and the headline for this article in News 24 says cash-strapped ANC proposes amendments to the Political Party Funding Act. Now the Concord made a ruling that said that the public should be able to know who is donating to political parties. I've done many videos on this, and especially the people that donated towards the DA and the ANC, etc., showing you who is pulling the purse strings, literally. Now, the ANC, because they're cash-strapped, they want to change this now. And I don't believe that the original bill that they came up with after the Concord ruling, that is good enough to begin with, because a person has to declare when they've donated 100,000 rand. Now you can do that a couple of times, and this is still problematic. So if you look at the sub-headlines, the ANC is trying here to come up with something that is going to make sure that they can hide who their donors are. So they want to up the amount by which you have to make disclosure, and the amount that anyone is allowed to donate within one financial year. So the ANC has detailed plans to allow businesses and entities to donate more money to political parties. It has been proposed that the amount an individual or entity can donate to a political party be increased from 15 million annually to between 50 million and 100 million. The ANC also wants the disclosure threshold of 100,000 to be increased to 250,000 or 500,000 rand per annum. In other words, if someone donates 500,000 rand, they need to disclose that they can donate 499,000 rand and not disclose who they are. So The fact that people had to disclose who they are caused havoc, especially when it became clear that Oppenheimer heirs were donating money towards the DA and many other entities, and the political parties don't like this because now the public can see what a fraud our political system currently is. A cash-strapped ANC wants to scrap several provisions of the Political Party Funding Act, chief among them the requirement that a single person can only donate 15 million to a political party. While reiterating its principled support for the Political Party Funding Act, the ANC's National Working Committee wants to increase the amount a single individual or entity can donate to a political party from 15 million annually to between 50 and 100 million. Now, those of you that have followed my videos before, I made it clear that they actually created something to circumnavigate this. And where there's a fund where anyone can contribute towards the political parties, parties is maybe a better expression, donate towards the political parties, and then they will equitably distribute those funds, in which case the ANC would get more, because to them equity means ek is groter as jy, I'm larger than you, so I get the largest cut, which is problematic. It's not democratic. Nothing about our political system is democratic at the moment, and this proves it. Alternatively, this limit should be completely scrapped, the party argues. In other words, there should be no limit. There shouldn't be a limit on when you disclose anything. Now, the big problem with this suggestion is the fact that I'm not even happy that you don't have to disclose when you donate 100,000 rand. That is a large amount of money going towards a political party. The other important thing to understand is that no one, hardly anyone, wanted to contribute towards this together created solidarity fund for the political parties. There was one idiot that actually believed that it meant something and paid money towards it. Maybe some more people have done it since. But the ANC realizes that people don't believe in the system anymore. So now they have to grovel to the people that control them. And they are making it clear with the statements they make here. And the DA, I can tell you now, is not far behind. So, the NWC also recommended that the threshold for disclosures of donations, currently at 100,000, should be increased to 250 or 500,000 per annum. NWC members warned that the party needed to proceed with caution as NGOs were opposed to any threshold, and I agree with that. There should be no threshold. It said 100,000 was a compromise. Too high a threshold might provoke litigation. Officials were of the view that a 250,000 threshold would suffice. That's nonsense. It's 2.5 times more. This was contained in the NWC's report made to the party's National Executive Committee ahead of its meeting over the weekend. So, the parties are becoming cash-strapped. This whole system will implode because it cannot continue as is. You cannot run a nation on a system that was designed to divide people, destroy an economy, destroy the country, remove people's freedom, and then bow down to your purse-string puppet masters. I quote, "We can also consider proposing an amendment to the Act to provide for higher threshold limits in the year preceding an election." In other words, in other years, you keep it the way it is, but just before an election, you make it higher. That's utter nonsense as well. Definition of donations to explicitly exclude dividends and or investments and on behalf of a political party, the document says. Why should a political party have investments? That is like running a business. These people have no idea what democracy is about. The Act came into effect on the 1st of April, April Fool's Act, as we can see last year after President Cyril Ramaphosa, who's another April's Fool, signed it into law in January 2019 and promulgated it in February of 2021. Political parties are supposed to disclose to the IEC on a quarterly basis funds of more than 100,000 that they receive. Parties can receive 15 million from an individual or entity in a single year. Now, we know that some people donated way more than that to some parties, especially the DA, individuals, which is more than 90% of their total income, which means that person controls what's happening within the party. For the ANC, the act has caused a reduction in the capacity of political parties to mobilize resources for their activities and for election campaigns. Yes, that was the entire intent. It shows you for the fraud that you are. It shows a system for the fraud that it is. And I quote, although no information is available about private donations to parties prior to the act becoming operational, it is illuminating that the total donations recorded to political parties for 2021 quarter 1 were just 30 million, and for quarter 2, an election period, 6 parties recorded just under 57 million received in private donations. No foreign donations were declared during the first quarter of 2021, and during the second quarter of 2021, just 467,007 rand of foreign donations were declared for stated purpose in the Act, Policy and Training by the DA and Action SA, the document said. These people are suffering, okay? They are chopping off. The ANC is also unhappy that in the 2021-2022 budget, funding for political parties will increase by 1.8% between 2021 and 2024. They should get no increase. They shouldn't get any money from us, the taxpayer. I pay taxes every single month, a lot of money, and these people are getting it. People I don't support. It is criminal that this is the case. Where in any country do you take taxpayers' money to fund political parties? Utter madness. The Act also prohibits funding of political parties through provincial legislatures, thus further reducing public funding of political parties and in effect the system of multi-party democracy. Since the PPFA came into effect, only a single donation of 2,000 Rand was made into the multi-party democracy fund. This is what I mentioned earlier, one person, one fool. The regulations provide for the IEC to distribute monies from the fund to political parties only once donations to the fund have reached 1 million. To date, no monies have been distributed from this fund. So they were hoping that this was going to solve the problem. And Cyril put it in the Act, although it's utter nonsense. Parties should be able to stand on their own, fundraise on their own. If people believe in them, they don't believe in them. The fact that they are there is a complete and utter farce. And every time we go to the ballot box, we're voting for parties instead of directly electing our leaders. We need system change, and it's certainly going to happen. It's either going to be system change or complete and utter annihilation. One of the two. In November 2021, the Electoral Commission of South Africa revealed that the ANC had received a 15 million donation from the party's investment arm Chancellor House Holdings. Should the ANC be successful in its proposed amendments, the amounts would not have to be declared. People, if you look at the intent of the Concord ruling, they are trying to subvert this. If the DA doesn't shout and scream to oppose what the ANC is trying to do, it means it suits them as well. So watch this space. Listen to the opposition moaning and bitching about this. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because all of them are in bed together. Thank you very much. Please join this channel, become a member, and then you can go and watch the videos that I've made for channel members, the live chats. We had a great live chat last night. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure the members enjoyed it. We're just under 1,000 members at the moment. By month end, we should have gone past 1,000 members, and I really want to thank the members that have made this work possible in the country. This real work on the ground that is making a real difference in the country. We are using YouTube only as a platform to get information out there. The real work is happening on the ground. Without that work, we will fail. Thank you very much. Till the next video.